Hello students, welcome to Infinity IAS. Today we'll look at how to write mains answers. We all know how important mains examination is to secure a place in the final list of the UPSC Civil Services examination. But we all read when it comes to prelims examination or mains examination. But one important thing that we need to do for mains examination is practice writing answers. There are a few things that we need to keep in mind while writing our mains answers. Today, we'll look at how to write these answers effectively and score better marks. So, we'll start with the basics. When we are given the mains paper or the question, the most important thing that we need to do is read the question carefully. As we all know, we have 10 markers or 15 marker questions. So 10 marker question, we only have 7 minutes, and 15 marker question, we have approximately 10.5 minutes to answer. But in these 7 minutes or 10 minutes, we need to read the question carefully if needed multiple times. We might feel that reading the question multiple times might be wasting this time. But if we don't read the question carefully and miss an important point, all these 7 minutes or 10.5 minutes that we saved will go to waste. So, we need to read the question carefully, if needed multiple times, underlining the keywords. This can be done in the question paper itself. So, if we underline the keywords, when we are writing the answer, if we look at the question in between answer writing, we will know what exactly we have to answer. So, underlining the keywords will help us while writing the answer. Then comes frame the answer mentally. So, when we are reading the question itself multiple times, we need to have a framework as to how we are going to write the answer. A basic framework is there as to how we should write answers. That is introduction, body, and conclusion. This is the basic standard that everyone writes in their mains questions. So, when we are reading the question, we should have an idea as to what we are going to write in the introduction, what we are going to write in the body. Conclusion might be left to the last when we have finished the answer. So, when we are reading the question, read it carefully, multiple times, underlining the keywords as well as framing a basic format of the answer that we are going to write. Then comes introduction. So, introduction is the first part of the answer. We have to write the introduction in all mains answers. In fact, introduction and conclusion for all the mains answers might get us at least half to 1 mark extra in all the answers. So, an effective introduction will help us to maximize our marks. There are a few basic things that we can follow in all the answers. So, starting with definition, for example, if a question is asked about urbanization or how it is affecting our society, that question we can simply start with defining what is urbanization, or we can give some statistics as to how much of the population is living in urban areas, or we can cite a report or an index, urbanization index, in the introduction to take us through the answer. Or in some questions, we can even give a quote. This can also effectively be used particularly in ethics questions or in international relations questions. For example, we can use a Gandhi quote to introduce an ethics question. That is a very effective way of writing introduction, particularly for ethics answers. So after writing the introduction, we'll get to the body of the question. So introduction and conclusion will only complement our answer, but it shouldn't be the entire body of the answer. So we should limit our introduction to 1 or 2 lines at the max. When it comes to body, when we are reading the question itself, we have to underline the keywords. For example, if it is critically discuss, what do you mean by critically discuss? Critically discuss means we have to give both pros and cons of the concept that is asked in the question. If it is elaborate, we have to expand the concept that is given in the question. So we have to underline the keywords and understand the question. Next comes answer all parts of the question. For example, if a question is asked on urbanization, what are the challenges faced by the society due to increased urbanization, and suggest some ways to tackle that. So if we answer only what are the challenges part, we will get only half the marks. We have to answer, or we have to give the solutions on how to tackle these challenges as well. So here the question has 2 parts, challenges part as well as solutions part. So this is where answer all parts of the question comes into play. Frequently, we have questions having multiple parts. Particularly in the 15 marker questions, we'll have 2 or 3 parts to the question. There, we have to answer all parts of the question. Here, underlining the keywords or underlining the question makes it easier. Then comes use keywords from the question if possible. So, when we are writing the body, we will give a small subheading to the individual parts. Here, we can use the keywords directly from the question. For example, in this urbanization question, we can start with the subheading, the challenges faced by the Indian society due to increasing urbanization are. So, this will help the examiner to know whether you have answered the parts correctly or not. So use the keywords from the question itself. This will make it easier for the examiner and in turn will give you more marks. Then give weightage appropriately. Particularly important in 15 markers. For example, if this is asked as a 15 marker question, we need to know what is the weightage that can be given to these 2 parts of the question. Here, challenges and solutions might carry equal weightage. Or sometimes, if you feel that the challenges are more in number and solutions are very less, that means this might carry 10 marks weightage and this might carry only 5 marks weightage. So when we are writing, we should give appropriate weightage to the parts of the question. That will help us in maximizing the score. If the examiner can only give maximum of 10 marks and maximum of 5 marks to these 2 parts, but if we write this for 2.5 pages solutions and only half page for challenges, he will not be able to give you good marks. So we need to understand the weightage of the parts of the question properly before answering. Then comes underlining keywords. When we are writing the answer, we should underline certain words. For example, if we quote a report or write a statistic or use a technical term in the answer, it is good if we can underline those keywords. That might help the examiner to look at those important points that you have written and easily give marks. Or if you haven't underlined a certain report or an index, he might have missed it while reading. But if you underline, he knows that it is important and that will help him easily evaluate your answer and give more marks. Then comes using appropriate classification. We all know that classifying answers into social, political, economic, etc. will help us writing the answers easily. But at the same time, if we write these classification in the answer itself, that will help the examiner understand that we have approached the answer in a multi-dimensional way and will increase the impression that the examiner has on the answer sheet. So, how can we include these terms in the answer? We can simply write in social aspect or socially. Such words can be used to classify our points into different aspects. This will help us not only in answering the question, but also it will help us not to miss any point when it comes to a specific question. And also diagrams or flowcharts, when we draw, it is good if we can draw a box around the diagram or flowchart. This will make our answer sheet look cleaner and help the examiner to look at the important diagram or the flowchart better. So when you draw a diagram or a flowchart, don't forget to draw a box around those diagrams. Conclusion and introduction will fetch us those half or 1 mark extra in every answer. So conclusion, give appropriate conclusions. So if we are writing about urbanization answer, and if we give an answer regarding environment or biodiversity, though in your mind you might feel that both are connected, but on the paper when the examiner is correcting, he might not see it as connected to the topic. So make sure that the keyword or the concept is mentioned in the conclusion and make sure that it is well connected to the answer that you are writing. So give appropriate conclusions. Then the conclusion should be forward looking or optimistic. For example, in the urbanization question, we cannot write that urbanization is damaging the environment or urbanization is spoiling the society or breaking the society. We should not be writing like that. We can write those in the challenges part, but our conclusion should be optimistic. We might quote some government program or scheme that is working towards making urbanization more sustainable. Something forward looking or optimistic. We can use concepts like SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. For this, we need to remember the important SDGs and what are the SDGs connected to. This will help us giving an appropriate conclusion. And then we can remember things like Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav or Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas. These slogans can be effectively used in our answers for giving a optimistic conclusion. For example, in the urbanization question, we can quote SDGs in this way. The above mentioned solutions can help us achieve sustainable urbanization and can help India achieve SDGs numbers. We can write the numbers related to urbanization and also the SDGs or the goals that have been mentioned in the answer. So that way it will give an optimistic solution. Or we can use Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas in the conclusion as well. So we can write the Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas call by the Prime Minister should be incorporated into the urbanization process to achieve sustainable urbanization. Such forward-looking or optimistic conclusions involving these keywords can help increase the quality of the conclusion. So in this way, we need to classify our answer into introduction, body and conclusion in all the mains answers. Thank you, students.